24. Dirt is revealed within purity, but purity itself is not soiled. As when the sky is veiled with clouds, mind is invisible when defiled with error. 285. 286. 287. 288. 289. 290. Mind is not born of the elements, mind is nowhere to be seen. It is the habit energy of people that brings out into view body, property, and abode. 1. This is a repetition of the latter half of verse 282 and the first half of 283. This is omitted in both Tianjin Wei, showing that the insertion is probably due to a clerical mistake. 291. All that is element made is not form, and form is not element made. The city of the Gandharvas, a dream. Maya, an image. These are not element made. 292.1. 293.2. 294. 295. As reality and non-reality can be predicated of existence that originates from causation, the view of oneness and otherness definitely belongs to them. 296 to 302. 303. There are three kinds of Sravakas. The transformed, the born of the vows, and the Sravakas disengaged from greed and anger, and born of the Dharma. 304. There are three kinds, also, of the Bodhisattvas. Those who have not yet reached Buddhahood, those who manifest themselves according to the thoughts of sentient beings, and those who are seen in the likeness of the Buddha. 3. 305 to 310. 311. It is a man's mind that is perceived as something resembling the form of a star, a cloud, a moon, a sun. And what is thus perceived by them is born of habit energy. 312. The elements are devoid of selfhood, there is neither qualified nor qualifying in them. If all element-made objects were the elements, form would be element-made. 1. The first half of this corresponds to the first half of chapter 3, verse 42. While the second half of 292 and the first half of 293 are practically a repetition of 290, and also of the second half of 282 and the first half of 283. Nanzhou's verse divisions are to be revised, I think, in some places, but fearing to cause greater confusion in the numbering of the whole, Sagatharkam, I have followed Nanzhou. 2. The first half of 292 and the second half of 293 correspond to chapter 3, verse 42. 3. This is the Tianj reading. Another reading is, there are three kinds of bodhisattvas. As to the Buddhas, they have no tangible form, but something looking like a Buddha may be seen according to the thoughts of each sentient being. Single quote. 313. The elements are uniform, there are no element-made objects in the elements. The elements are the cause. The earth, water, etc. are the result. 314. Substances and forms of thought construction are like things born of Maya. They appear like a dream and a city of the Gandharvas, they are a mirage and a fifth. 1. 315. There are 5 kinds of the Ikantika, so with the families which are 5. There are 5 vehicles and no vehicle, and 6 kinds of Nirvana. 316. The skandhas are divided into 25, and there are 8 kinds of form, 24 Buddhas, and there are 2 kinds of Buddha sons. 317. There are 108 doctrines, and 3 kinds of Sravakas. There is one land of the Buddhas, and so with the Buddha, there is one. 318. Likewise with emancipation. There are 3 forms, 4 kinds of mind streams, 6 kinds of my egolessness, and also 4 kinds of knowledge. 319. Disjoined from causal agencies, removed from faulty theories, is the knowledge of self-realization, which is the Mahayana, immovable and highest. 320. Of birth and no birth there are 8 and 9 kinds. Whether the attainment is instantaneous or successive, it is one realization. 321. There are 8 worlds of formlessness. Jnana is divided into 6. And with the Pratyeka Buddhas and Buddha sons, there are 7 forms of emancipation. 322. There are no such things as the past, present, and future. There is neither permanency nor impermanency. Doing, work, and fruition. All is no more than a dream event. 323. From beginning to end the Buddhas, Sravakas, and Buddha sons have never been born. The mind is removed from what is visible, being always a Maya-like existence. 1. The text gives no clue to this. Is Prajnaptarupam the same as Vijnaptarupam of the Abhidharmakosa? 324. Thus the abode in the Tushita heaven, the conception, the birth, the leaving, the worldly life, the revolving of the wheel, the wandering about in all the countries. A Buddha is seen doing all these things, but he is not one born of the womb. 325. Thus, for the sake of sentient beings who are wandering and moving about from one place to another, emancipation is taught, the truth, the knowledge of the Buddha land, and the rising of things by causation. 326. Worlds, forests, islands, egolessness, philosophers, wanderings, jhanas, the vehicles, the alaya, the attainments, the inconceivable realm of fruition. 327. Families of the moon and stars, families of kings, abodes of the gods, families of the yakshas and Gandharvas. They are all born of karma and are born of desire. 328. Inconceivable transformation. Death is still in union with habit energy. When interrupted, death is put a stop to, the net of passions is destroyed. 329. The bodhisattva is not to keep one money, grain, gold, land, goods, kine and sheep, slaves, nor horses, elephants, etc. 330. He is not to sleep on a perforated couch, nor is he to smear the ground with mud. 2. He is not to have a bowl made of gold, silver, brass, or copper. 331. Let the yogin have white cloth dyed in dark blue or brownish red with cow dung, or mud, or fruits, or leaves. 332. The yogin is permitted to carry a bowl of full Magadha measure made of either stone, or clay, or iron, or shell, or quartz. 333. The yogin whose final aim is to discipline himself may carry a curved knife 4 fingers long for cutting cloth. He who is intent on disciplining himself may not learn the science of mechanics. 334. The yogin who disciplines himself in the exercises is not to be engaged in buying and selling. If necessary, let the attendant see to it. These are the regulations I teach. 1. According to the Chinese. 2. The source is unknown to the translator. 335. Thus, guarding his senses, let him have an exact understanding in the meaning of the Sutras and the Vinaya, and let him not associate with men of the world, such I call the yogin. 336. Let the yogin prepare his abode in an empty house, or a cemetery, or under a tree, or in a cavern, or among the straw, or in an open place. 337. Let the yogin dress himself in 3 garments, whether in the cemetery or any other place. If anyone should voluntarily give him a garment, let him accept it. 338. When he goes about begging food, let him look ahead not more than the length of a yoke. Let him conduct himself in the way bees treat flowers. 339. When the yogin finds himself in a large company, in the confusion of a company, or with bhikshunis women mendicants, this is not a desirable relationship for yogins. For it means to share a livelihood with them. 340. The yogin, whose aim is to discipline himself in the exercise, is not to approach for his food kings, princes, ministers of state, or persons of rank. 341. In houses where a death or a birth has taken place, or in the houses of friends and relatives, or where bhikshus and bhikshunis are mixed together, it is not proper for the yogins to take their food. 342. In the monasteries food is always regularly cooked, and when it is purposely prepared somewhere else, it is not proper for the yogins to take their food. 343. The yogin should regard the world as removed from birth and death, as exempt from the alternation of being and non-being, though it is seen in the aspect of qualified and qualifying. 344. When birth and death is not discriminated, the yogin before long will attain the samadhi, the powers, the psychic faculties, and the self-mastery. 345. The yogin should not cherish the thought that the world exists from such causal agents as atoms, time, or supreme soul, nor that it is born of causes and conditions. 346. From self-discrimination the world is imagined, which is born of varieties of habit energy. Let the yogin perceive existence as always like unto Maya and a dream. 347. The true insight is always removed from assertions as well as from negations. Let not the yogin discriminate the triple world which appears as body, property, and abode. 348. Not thinking how to obtain food and drink, but holding his body upright, let him pay homage over and over again to the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. 349. Gathering truth from the Vinaya, from the teachings in the Sutras, let the yogin have a clear insight into the 5 dharmas, mind itself, and egolessness. 350. The yogin should have a distinct understanding of the undefiled truth of self-realization and as to what the stages of bodhisattvahood and the Buddha stage are, and be anointed on the great lotus seat. 351. Wandering through all the paths, he becomes averse to existence, and directing his steps towards some quiet cemetery he will begin various practices. 352 to 354. 355. According to the philosophers there is a reality born of no cause, neither permanent nor subject to annihilation, and removed from the alternatives of being and non-being, and this is imagined by them to be the middle path. 356. They imagine the theory of no cause, but their no cause is nihilistic. As they fail to understand the real nature of external objects, they destroy the middle path. 357. The attachment to existence is not abandoned for the fear of being nihilistic, and they try to teach the middle path by means of assertion and negation. 358. When mind only is understood, external objects are abandoned and discrimination no more takes place. Here the middle path is reached. 359. There is mind only, there is no visible world. As there is no visible world, mind is not risen. 1. This is taught by myself and other Tathagatas to be the middle path. 1. After Tianj Wei has. Apart from mind there is no rising. No rising of a visible world? 360. Birth and no birth, being and non-being. These are all empty. There is no self-nature in all things. The duality is not to be cherished. 361. Where there is no possibility of discrimination taking its rise, the ignorant imagine there is emancipation. But as there is no understanding in them as to the rise of a mind, how can they destroy their attachment to duality? 1. 362. As it is understood that there is nothing but what is seen of the mind, the attachment to duality is destroyed. Knowledge, indeed, is the abandonment, not the destruction of the discriminated. 363. As it becomes thoroughly known that there is nothing but what is seen of the mind, discrimination ceases. As discrimination ceases, suchness is removed from intellection. 2. 364. If a man, seeing the rise of all things, yet perceives that Nirvana is devoid of the faults of the philosophers, this is the Nirvana as held by the wise, because of its not being annihilation. 365. To realize this is said by myself and other Buddhas to be the attainment of Buddhahood. If there is any other discrimination, one is committed to the philosopher's views. 366. Nothing is born, and yet things are being born. Nothing dies and yet things are passing away. All over millions of worlds what is seen simultaneously is like a lunar reflection in water. 367. Unity being transformed into plurality, rain falls and fire burns. As a mind is changed into many thoughts, they declare that there is mind only. 368. Mind is of mind only, no mind is also born of mind. When understood, varieties of forms and appearances are of mind only. 369. By assuming Buddha forms, Sravaka forms, Pratyeka Buddha appearances, and varieties of other forms, they declare mind only. 1. The text as it stands is difficult to understand. I follow Tianj.2 cf. Chapter 3, verses 25, and the Sagathakam, verse 651. 370. For the sake of beings the Buddhas show forms by means of no form, from the world of no form and of form down to the hells where hell dwellers are. And all this originates from mind only. 371. When a spiritual revulsion takes place in them, they will attain the samadhi called Maya, like the will body, the 10 stages, the self-mastery. 372. On account of self-discrimination which causes errors and sets false reasonings in motion, the ignorant are bound up with ideas in what they see, hear, think, or understand. 373. 374. 375 to 378. 379. The Buddhas in every land are those of transformation, where the doctrine of the one vehicle and the triple vehicle is taught. I never enter into Nirvana, for all things are empty, being devoid of birth and death. 380. There are 36 different Buddhas, and in each 10 different ones. In accordance with the thought of all beings they share their lands. 381. When existence is discriminated, there are varieties of appearances. In like manner the Dharma-Buddha's world may appear in its multiplicity, which in reality exists not. 382. The Dharma-Buddha is the true Buddha and the rest are his transformations. According to a continuous flow of their own seeds, sentient beings see their Buddha forms. 1. 383. When the mind is bound up with error and appearance, discrimination is set in motion. Suchness is no other than discrimination, and discrimination is no other than appearance. 384. The self-nature Buddha, the enjoyment Buddha, the transformation Buddha, the 5 transformation Buddhas, and a group of 36 Buddhas. They are all of the self-nature Buddha. 2. 1 after Tianjin Way. 2. The 5 transformation bodies may mean those transformation Buddhas who manifest themselves in the 5 paths of existence in order to save the sentient beings that are suffering there in the endless wheel of transformation, according to the Shingon doctrine of the fourfold Dharmakaya. This last transformation or manifestation is distinguished from the generally accepted transformation Buddha and is given a special position by itself. The fourth one thus in the Shingon is known as the Nishayandakaya, distinguishing it from the third, which is Nirvana or Nirmitakaya. This verse is quoted by Lankavatara, one of the Indian Shingon fathers, who settled in China, in one of his works called the Taisho Tripitaka, No. 870. Nanzhou Catalogue, No. 1433. I owe this information to Professor Shon Togunowo, of Koya Buddhist College. 385–406. Opening parenthesis. Chapter 2. Verses 101 to 123, with verse divisions occasionally varying. Closing parenthesis. 407. Owing to seeds of habit energy that grow from the recognition of an outer world, discrimination takes place. And thereby the relativity aspect one is grasped, and that which is grasped is variously imagined. 2. 408. When one depending upon the mind recognizes an external world, error is produced. Error takes place from these 2 causes, and there is no third cause. 409. Depending on that and from that cause error is produced. The 6, the 12, the 18, are thus said by me to be of the mind. 410. When it is understood that things are because of the combination of self-seeds and an external world, the ego attachment is abandoned. 411. Because of the alaya vijnana the vijnana system is evolved. Because of inner support there is something externally appearing. 412. The unintelligent imagine the Samskrita and Asamskrita to be permanent, while they are not, as they are like the stars, a hairnet, an echo, or things seen in a dream. 413. As they are like the city of the Gandharvas, a mirage, or Maya. They are not, yet they are perceived as if they were real. So is the relativity aspect of existence.